Hi guys, Dick here, Old School Duels 12. Just with a quick serious note before the episode or video starts of this series. Yes, it's called For the Noobs, and I'm not in any way calling anybody specific noobs or being a noob a bad thing. Trust me, I was a noob, everybody's been a noob at some point. But I just wanted to say that this is not in any way me calling anybody a bad player or a noob or anything like that. This is strictly for information for people that want to get information and know more about Yu-Gi-Oh! Or go competitive. Like, that is what I intend to do in this series. Hey guys, it's Dick here, Old School Duels 12, coming at you with a brand new series. Yes, it's called For the Noobs. Now, For the Noobs is about just various different topics that I want to talk about for people that just want to know more about Yu-Gi-Oh! Or just want to know information going into competitive play. Because I've met tons of people that want to go into competitive play, and they just don't have all the information. So this is just a series that I will be doing periodically, probably like once every 2 weeks, because I do every other day, which means like 1 week it'll be like Sunday, Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, and the next week will be Monday, Wednesday, Friday. So it'll probably be like every other week type of thing. Every other, I don't know. I'll figure it out, and when I know, I'll know in the next episode. So yeah. So anyway, today, for the first topic is something that I want to talk about that I've run into quite a few people that play competitively, but not completely competitive like I wouldn't say recently started, but something that since last year I've started doing. It's called, excuse me, I had a burp. It's called side decks. Now, this is the main deck. Here's my side deck. Now, there's 3 different kinds of decks for Yu-Gi-Oh! Before I get into it, for people that don't really know everything, there's main deck, the stuff that is between 40 and 60 cards. Then there's the extra deck, which is a maximum. You could not have an extra deck at all, and the maximum is 15 cards. You can't have any more than 15, but it doesn't matter if you don't have any at all. And the side deck is really what I'm here to talk about. The main deck and the extra deck are just there for references, because trust me, I will be needing both of them. Side deck. To play a legal 15 card side deck, you have to have a full 15 cards. And the deck I'll be using as my example for today's episode, and the first episode, is my Magician deck, because this is a legitly competitive, completely competitive, full main, full extra, and full side deck. Full extra. It has everything that I would like to say is competitive play and does me services, I guess. Now, a side deck. What is a side deck? Like I said, a side deck is 15 cards. No more, no less. To have a complete, full, legal side deck, you have to have 15 cards. If there's not the maximum 15 cards in it, you cannot use it for tournament play. And if a judge really wants to be a douchebag and look at it and say, and count it and be like, this isn't 15, boom, you can't use it. So, just to let you guys know, that's just something quickly that I want to say before I start explaining other things. It's something that you must keep in mind for building a side deck. Now, what should I put in a side deck, you ask? A side deck, at least how I look at a side deck, I look at the main deck. Okay, this is the main deck right here. Everything's all organized, because when I do videos and I'm talking about decks, I like everything to be organized, because it's just easier for me to locate things and talk about things. Now, you look at your main deck and you're like, okay, when I build the main deck, I want the main deck to have, for the most part, basic situational things. Like for my Magician deck, I have basic, I have monster effect negation, I have card popping, I have stopping attacks, stopping summons, everything you can think of. Now, for the most part. Now, there is other times in other decks that you run into a lot. That people are like, okay, I'm going to build the deck this way, and it's going to have stuff that I'm not prepared for. So, that's where your side deck comes into handy. Like, say the deck is, my deck can deal with back row and monster effect negation, or monster effect, or monsters in general. It can deal with that a lot. But say they don't run as many monster effects and more spell traps. and that's why I lose. So I need to take out the stuff that, is bad for monster effect negation, which is these 5 cards is for my monster effect negation. Something I would also like to add is when you're swapping out cards, because when you're normally duels are best of 3 normally on Konami related stuff. It's best of 3 in Swiss, but you don't need to know what Swiss is. It's best of 3, which means first person, best 2 out of 3. So, say the first game, you cannot side deck at all. The second and third duel, if it comes to a third duel, you're allowed to side deck. But when it comes to siding, your main deck and your side deck have to remain the same amount of number of cards. Wow, that was really bad spacing. But it has to remain the same amount of number of cards in all of them. So if your main deck is 40 and your side deck is 15, your main deck, once you're done swapping stuff out, side deck still has to be 15 and your main deck still has to be 40. That's just one quick ruling that can cost you games. I've seen it done to people, and it's not fun. Even watching it, it's not funny. Because people work hard to become to play Yu-Gi-Oh! Some people might think not, but playing Yu-Gi-Oh! Actually can be the hard work if you want to be pro at it, like I'm trying to be. Some people might say I'm already good enough to be pro, like, hey, you're already pro, blah, blah. I'm not completely pro. I may play at a pro level and know quite a bit of information to where I can say that's a bad ruling, or I memorize just multiple different things to keep myself up to date and on my toes about everything I can run into, and there's still things I run into. I'll be at big tournaments like regionals and stuff like that, and I'll run into a play and someone will be like, oh, I can do that, and I'll be like, no, you can't. Then they get a judge and the judge is like, yeah, you're wrong, blah, 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 blah. And I'll be like, oh, okay, my bad, I'm sorry. You just gotta take when you're wrong. So, these are 5 cards, back to what I was talking about, that are monster effect negation. And let's say their deck is, mostly about back row. Now, the different cards in my side deck that deal with back row in general is I have these 9 cards. I have these 9 cards. 2 Forbidden Lances, 3 MSTs, 3 Spell Shattering Arrow, and 1 Trap Stun. In the main deck, I do not run any Forbidden Lances, no MSTs, and 2 Trap Stun. Which means if they're very trap heavy, I'm definitely going to side in the Trap Stun. Now, if their deck is definitely like general, in general stuff, I'm more than likely going to try and side in the Forbidden Lances or the MSTs. Now, if it's a Pendulum back row or a lot of face-up spell traps, I'm more than likely going to run these guys or try to side in these guys, the MSTs and the Spell Shattering Arrows. So that's just one thing, you got to keep in mind. You got to remember and try to keep track of what they rely on and what your deck is bad against, or what you don't really need for the deck. So it's different little things. Another thing that you also want to keep in mind is what is meta. What are different things that if you run up against, your deck is bad against? So, say this deck, can I deal with mirror matches and other pendulum decks? Yes, I can deal with that. Just not as well as, say, what's a good one? I know this is I'm not going to say this is a good example, but it is a very valid example. Say I run into Cleforts. Back in the day, I probably would have run tons of stuff to just deal with just stuff on the field, monsters in general, because monsters and stuff to just deal with the pendulum zone. Now, if I run against Cleforts, I have to hardcore worry about the pendulum zone and the back row, because Cleforts, they need that back row support. At least in my eyes, the Cleforts need that back row support to keep them live and deal with everybody else's stuff. So I would do different things. Like, definitely I would try, if I'm going against pendulums, I'm definitely going to try and get those Spell Shattering Arrows in, just because I want to deal life point damage with this card. Plus, I also want to deal with the face-up pendulum cards. I think personally Cleforts are a great example of dealing with stuff in general. Just Spell Shattering Arrow to deal with the scouts and other pendulum zone, because they kind of need the pendulum zone. I wouldn't say they definitely hardcore needed, but it's definitely something for beginning plays that's important. Now, they also rely on face down stuff, so Forbidden Lance is also a great card to side in. Also, if I'm running against another pendulum deck in general, like Cleforts, Wavering Eyes. Wavering Eyes is definitely something I think you should try to, especially if you're running a pendulum deck, this card is your best friend. Wavering Eyes. Yes, I already run 2, but a third one would not hurt. Just for other Pendulum Zone or Pendulum monsters, I can blow up, get the full 4 monster effect, search out my other Wavering Eyes, plus deal 500 points of damage, plus deal or banish something on the field, plus search a Pendulum monster. Also, another thing you want to think about in the Pendulum Zone. How does that affect my playstyle? Now, my playstyle for my Odd Eyes deck is definitely something that is, let me rephrase that, is get Odd Eyes on the field as fast as possible. Now, if I change up anything in the extra deck, obviously as you can tell, I don't really have any monsters really in the side deck. You can side monsters and you can also side things in the extra deck. Like, if I wanted to, I could run a side deck. I could run other extra deck stuff. Like, say I'm not going to need Rune Eyes against something. I don't know. This is only a hypothetical, not saying it's something that I constantly think about. Like, okay, I'm facing Cosmos. For some odd reason, Rune Eyes is a really bad play against Cosmos. But I have another XYZ monster or fusion or whatever that I can go into, an extra deck monster that can deal with Cosmos really well. I'm going to side this guy out and grab my other extra deck guy. You could do that. But the same rule applies if you have 15, 14, 12, 1... There still has, if you take something out of this for a different extra deck guy, same number. Same number has to be there, same number in the side deck. And also, another thing you want to think about, consistency. Consistency is such a big thing for a lot of competitive players. Now, what is the consistency for my Odd Eyes deck? Consistency for this deck is 20, 10, 10. Sometimes the smallest thing of changing this up, I take a monster out, I don't need it, and I throw in a spell card. Now I'm at 19, 11, 10. And the numbers are coming from how many monsters, how many spells, how many traps. 20, 10, 10. 20 monsters, 20 spells, or 10 monster, or 10 spell. Let me just try that. 20 monsters, 10 spells, 10 traps. That's where I'm getting my numbers from, 20, 10, 10. Some people are different, they're like 12, 14, 10. That surprisingly makes sense. 12, 14, 12, I think. I don't know. But the numbers are really bonkers. Sometimes it's 20, 20, 20. 20 monsters, 20 spell, 20 traps. I've one player where I go for locals. He plays 60 card decks. It bothers me so much because he'll sometimes play a deck that I play with 60 cards. Yeah, I don't know. Like, he's a good player, don't get me wrong. But I think he could be way better if he just plays 40 card decks. I think he can honestly, live up to me. But he plays 40 cards. But I'm not going to tell him how to play his deck. He builds decks how he wants to. Back to this, though. Consistency. When I side deck in this deck, I try to think of things that, 1, make sure I don't mess up my consistency. 2, make sure it doesn't mess up my playstyle. And 3, make sure I still have everything I need for all the plays I need. Those, to me, are the 3 things that I want to worry about when building a side deck. Let's go over them again. Consistency, playstyle, what I need. Those are, to me, the top 3 things you need to think about when you're building a side deck. Sometimes, same things kind of apply in a main deck, but main deck's for a different video. Same thing with the extra deck. Only you don't need consistency, really, because you don't shuffle or draw from this. But that is a side deck. That is what it takes to build a side deck. Or not what it takes. That is what I look for into a side deck. Now, like I said in the previous intro thing, whatever you want to call it, my quick little message. Like I've said before, and something that I will try my best. I can't be specific, whatever. I can't appeal to everybody. I know that. I know I'm not going to appeal to everybody. But something that people want to take into account for this video series. This will be a reoccurring video series unless, I decide, like, okay, no one's really liking this. I'm going to take a break from this. But it's something that I run into a lot at competitive events and other people that just want to play Yu-Gi-Oh! For fun, for competitiveness, friendly casual, friendly competitive, stuff like that. It's information that you can use, take, throw away, whatever you want to do. I'm not calling anybody a noob. I'm not saying being a noob is a bad thing. But it's definitely something you want to take in effect, or take into effect of watching this series. I'm going to play that same message at the beginning of every video. So, yeah. And it's probably going to be like the same splice, so you're probably going to see this every time. Probably shouldn't have done that, but who cares? Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. Oh, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to my other videos. Thank you, and have a wonderful, beautiful night, day thing, or whatever. And before I exit out of this, please look forward to more anime deck duels. I'm preparing one right now. I'm going to go ahead and just spoil it right now with everyone, so you can decide whether or not you want to watch it. Tell your friends about it, whatever you want to do. The next anime deck duel that I will be doing is Joey Wheeler versus Cyrus Truesdale. Speedroids versus, Speedroids versus just Joey Wheeler's deck, which is just kind of like Warrior deck. Haven't decided if I want to do Battle City. I'm really liking the Battle City decks just because it's better and it was more built around the play style of actually needing to sacrifice. So that's what I'm thinking of going with. Excuse me, is the Battle City deck. And Truesdale, or Cyrus, I'm thinking of just going right from the beginning, so he's not OP, really, because Cyrus actually got OP after a while, if you really thought about it. So, thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget to follow me on Twitter, follow me on Instagram, tweet me different video ideas you want me to do, I'll tweet me other stuff that you guys want to see. I will gladly take an account to it. All the links in the description below. And thank you for having a beautiful night, day thing, or whatever.